Hey, football fans, welcome back to another episode of Lions Latest, the show where we like to gather around and talk about the greatest team in the NFL, the Detroit Lions. I'm your host, Bryan Hanes. We have some very interesting topics to talk about today, so let's just jump straight into the video. Starting off, we have a possible UFL linebacker that could be another, miracle story like Jake Bates. The Lions have always thought outside the box in the last few years in terms of building a team and adding guys to the roster. And with depth, being a serious thing that we had to worry about last year, it wouldn't be too bad to grab some people that, are more out of the box options. Last year, the Lions found an expected gold in free agency when they signed Jake Bates. After a fantastic UFL season with the Michigan Panthers, Bates went 26 for 29 on kicks and was a clutch force for the Detroit Lions special teams room that badly needed stability. I remember how awesome it was seeing him hit all those 60-yard field goals in the UFL, and I'm like, well, he plays for the Michigan Panthers. Why don't we just bring him to the Lions? And then there were the rumors, and people are like, no, it's not actually going to happen. And then bang, it just happened. And I was so excited, so hyped to see what he was going to do. And he ended up winning us a number of games last year in some pretty hype fashions. I love Jake Bates. Really glad we got him, and I'm glad he got a chance to play in the NFL after not playing any snaps in college. A year later, there's another intriguing prospect that could provide the Detroit defense the same impact. Devontae Beckett just finished up a solid season in San Antonio, where he led the league in tackles. That has landed him on Brent Sablisky's list of UFL studs that deserve another chance in the NFL. His natural instincts, ability to seamlessly sift through trash and produce high tackle numbers are what make him really good at the position. A linebacker doesn't necessarily need a 4.5 speed, but if he's breaking on plays as they already start to develop, he's already got what he needs. In Beckett's case, his natural feel for the position allowed him to lead the UFL last season with 89 total tackles. Beckett is a natural chase linebacker who can immediately help on special teams as well, which we can always take, right? Beckett could prove to be similarly brilliant addition for 2025, especially given the uncertainty at linebacker. We already kind of talked about Alex Anzalone. He didn't show up for OTAs, and as he fights for that new contract, getting some depth at linebacker would be really good. We did grab some in the offseason, but hey, we saw with injuries last year, you can never have too many playmakers on a team. Whether that will be solved before the season is unknown, but depth could be added with premium and making sure, Anzalone stays. I think he is going to stay. Something that the Lions have already hinted at with their moves. I think it would be really good to grab a guy like this. He's a stud, right? And it's like, oh, well, if these guys play in the UFL, then why aren't they playing in the NFL? And there's reasons, right? You're not ready to take that step to the next level. But we saw with Jake Bates, a guy who didn't even play college football, he could produce kicks in the NFL and win games for us. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that kicker and linebacker are comparable here, but if he's producing the most tackles in the UFL, he's doing something right. And they're saying that maybe his speed's not comparable to an NFL level, but if his game knowledge and understanding how plays develop is, then why not have him as a depth piece on the team? He doesn't necessarily need to be a starter, but you throw him in once in a while, possibly for a linebacker blitz. He can see the play develop and he can make a play there. Let's have him, right? The other thing too is to put him on special teams. If he's a key tackler, having him on special teams could be really good for punts, for kickoffs, stuff like that. I know the kickoff's different now, but still having a good tackler on special teams is never a bad thing, especially with the kind of stuff we like to do on special teams, all the different trick plays. He could definitely be a stud there, and I think he kind of proved himself this past season. So with that being said, keep an eye out for that guy. I think he could be a really good piece to add, and you never know with these guys, these Cinderella stories coming out of the UFL. It's always cool to see another guy get his chance. So with that being said, let's move to our second topic. We're discussing wide receiver Dominic Lovett's potential. He played college football for the Missouri Tigers, and then his last few seasons for the Georgia Bulldogs. He was selected by the Lions in the 7th round of the 2025 NFL Draft. He's 5'10", 185 pounds, and he runs a 4.40. A lot of fours there. So what's cool about this guy? We got him a little later, so it was kind of one of those guys who's, okay, he's still here. Okay, we like him. He fits the mold. We know how Dan and Brad like to do things. Yeah, let's get him on the team. Why not? Let's talk about his stats right now. So his first 2 seasons, he was with Missouri. He recorded in his first year 26 receptions for 173 yards. He averaged 6.7 yards a catch, 0 touchdowns, and his long was 32 yards. Next season, he gets 56 receptions, so all of a sudden, he's got a lot more trust. He's ramping up those receptions for 846 yards. ton more yards, averaged 15.1 yards a catch, and had 3 touchdowns. So stats immediately improve once he gets that, sophomore level, that trust with the quarterback, trust with the coach. And then he goes to Georgia. In Georgia, his first year, he gets 54 receptions, so two less than his sophomore year, but for 613 yards, so about 200 yards less. He averages 11.4 yards a catch and gets 4 touchdowns, but touchdown numbers are going up. So he's still, something to be worried about in the end zone, in the red zone. His final year with Georgia, he has record 59 receptions for 607 yards. He averaged 10.3 yards a catch, but get this, he had 6 touchdowns. So, maybe not getting the, big chunks of yards that he had those first couple of years, or the, second and third year, but 6 touchdowns is better than 4 and 3 touchdowns. So obviously he's becoming a weapon in the red zone. He's a slot receiver, so that's no real, crazy story there. But what is really his potential? So we said he is a possible slot receiver for us. I think he could absolutely be a depth piece. We already talked about Isaac Tesla and how he's probably going to be our go-to rookie this year. He was selected in the 3rd round, so we obviously wanted him, and he's that big body, so he's got a lot going for him. But I think this guy could get potential special teams dude, punt returner, kick returner. If he's got that speed and he's, shifty in a slot position, why not throw him in a returner spot? We already talked about Khalif Raymond, how he's getting older, potentially trading him for some stuff. We got him now. And if we don't want our guy Isaac Tesla to be the returner, I know some of you guys were saying that'd be a good idea, and I don't necessarily disagree, but if he gets injured on a punt return, then we can't really utilize him and see what he can do on offense. I think this would be a great position for him to, improve, get better, learn the game more, get used to the NFL a little more in the special teams position. And then when we need to bring him out for a depth piece, we have that slot receiver, give St. Brown a little rest if he's getting hit a lot, or if, it's late in the game, why not throw him in? And I think the biggest thing about this guy is he's got room to grow. I think that's the best part about grabbing guys this late in the draft is we don't know how good he's going to get. He has all this untapped potential, and with the right coaching staff, passing game coordinator, offensive coordinator, John Morton, and you got a guy like Dan Campbell who's just going to make you want to run through a brick wall. There's all sorts of room and potential to grow for a guy like this. Let me know what you guys think about this guy. I think, with these later picks, there's a lot of uncertainty on what their position's going to be, what their role is going to be later down the line, but I definitely think he's a cool pick, and he's got a lot of potential to play a special teams role on our team. So with that being said, let's move to our third topic. We're talking about Tate Ratledge and why he hasn't signed a rookie contract yet. He was a 2nd-round pick. There's a lot of actually stuff going around with the 2nd-round picks right now and why there's a lot of guys not getting signed. So he hasn't signed his rookie contract due to a league-wide issue affecting the 2nd-round picks. I found this to be a kind of weird. Specifically, the fully guaranteed contracts of Jaden Higgins from Texas and Carson Schwiffinger from that's on the Browns. He created a negotiation stalemate as other teams are hesitant to match those guarantees. So they got a lot of money for 2nd-round picks, and it was very early in the whole signing process. So now a lot of teams are like, oh crap, we can't match that necessarily because we don't got enough cap space, or we're trying to save cap space for other guys, and we paid our 1st-round picks a lot. So now the Lions are kind of in a similar position. Ratledge was projected to earn around $7.65 million over 4 years, and he is one of the 30 2nd-rounders that are still unsigned today. So what's the issue with that? There's a few issues. The Lions are likely waiting for other teams to sign their 2nd-round picks before resolving this situation, as they need him on the field to compete for a starting center position. We already know, we talked about how he can play center and guard and possibly tackle, but I don't necessarily think we need him at tackle right now. And if Ratledge doesn't sign, he won't be able to participate in training camp, potentially delaying his preparation for the upcoming season. And just a heads up, training camp starts this week on the 16th. So for rookies at least. So we need him to kind of get going. And if we don't have him ready practicing with this O-line sooner than later, there could be some serious issues on the O-line. Not that I think we will. We've always had a stable O-line, and I think even if he comes in late, he'll still be okay. We can accommodate. He's a talented player, and talented players kind of learn fast, as we know. But still, it's better to have him sooner than later, especially with the center position kind of being a big situation. So getting him accustomed to what's going on, how we operate, and then kind of the system we run, it's just better, especially for rookies, to get going. So I think we definitely should sign him sooner than later. The issue, of course, is the money and the cap space. Not to say that we don't necessarily have enough cap space to just do it, but I understand where the front office is coming here, and I believe in the next couple of weeks we will start to see development, if not a signing from Tate Ratledge. Hopefully, we get him on the squad soon. I think he's a super cool player. I think he's super talented. I think his ability to play center and guard makes him one of those, super vital players and key players on the team. And I think he's a Dan Campbell guy. We've seen the mullet, we've seen the way he operates, his press conference talks, and all that good stuff. I really like Tate Ratledge, and it'd be a shame to not see him get what he deserves when we picked him in the second round. So, with that being said, keep an eye out for his signing. Let me know what you think the Lions should do in the comments down below, and we'll move to our fourth and final topic. Speaking of comments, I've decided it has been long enough to start talking about your guys' comments, since they mean so much to me. And you guys give me a lot of great insight as also some longtime fans out there. It's good to see other point of views and perspectives, and you guys give me a lot of those. I even appreciate the ones where you tell me I'm wrong, because I'm not a guy who likes to be told no. I think sometimes when I see the way you guys talk about it, I'm like, that makes sense. So let's just get straight into it. Starting off with user Handle Your Business. They say Green Bay's secondary will be their undoing to many great receivers and tight ends in the NFC North. They will get exposed. The PFF rankings for their secondary players are not good. Defensive line and linebackers are going to have to cause pressures to protect that group. No pressures, they're getting torched by the North teams. Lions are clearly the class of the division and NFC when healthy. That's the biggest concern for us of this season after what happened last year. Playing all the AFC North teams is a real health challenge. The physicality of that division and the overall schedule is going to make staying healthy a real issue. I agree, Handle Your Business. We talked about Green Bay and what's going to potentially be their biggest downfall, and I think it will be their secondary. They added Matthew Golden. That's definitely going to be really good for them on offense. Not Jane Daniels. Jordan Love has that weapon now, that secure weapon, and I think he's going to be really, really good this year because of that. But we kind of saw last year, a great offense is great, but it's only as good as your defense, right? We saw that with the Bengals as well. Letting go Jair Alexander, despite injuries or playtime, he's still one of their best defensive players, and now their secondary is definitely looking a little weak. I agree with what you're saying, and as long as the Lions can stay healthy, knock on wood, we should have a field day with the Green Bay Packers this year, which is always good, and we will see them on Thanksgiving and for Week 1. So thank you so much, Handle Your Business. I appreciate your comment. Second comment is from Joseph Murdoch. It says, Tesla was picked for the inevitable greed of J-Mo and Brown. When they want more money, the Lions won't be able to pay. I think this one has layers to it. So, because we signed St. Brown for his contract, so we don't got to worry about him for a little bit. But J-Mo, let's talk about J-Mo here. Yeah, he is going to want his contract soon. His rookie contract's ending. And because of the development and the progression he's had, he's definitely going to ask for a good chunk of money. I don't necessarily think the Lions aren't willing to pay him. We will have to see contract negotiations, obviously, and see how he does this season, because that's going to have a big impact on what he asks for and what his agent's going to ask for. But I don't necessarily think we won't pay him, right? We have him and St. Brown as our wide receiver 1 and 2, and that's good to have a 1 and 2. And then I think the real thing is going to be who's going to get that third spot. I think that's going to be the real negotiation to go with. Isaac Tesla, obviously, on his rookie contract, so we won't have to worry about that, or he's not necessarily on his contract yet, but we have him as a rookie, so that's something we don't have to worry about for a while. Tim Patrick's definitely going to have to work for it. But I don't think the Lions are going to be cheap on these guys. We haven't been cheap with our stars. Goff gets us to a championship. Pay the man. Penei Sewell's a monster. Pay the man. We've been really good about that kind of stuff, and I don't think it won't stop. But Joseph, I appreciate your comment. I do like the whole thing there of worrying about that in the future. It's always good for a fan to worry about the team's future. Moving on to our final comment I want to talk about is from Super Trustfall. Super Trustfall says, Brad and Alex are just playing chess. By the way, this is about the Alex Anzalone topic. And I think Brad's winning. Brad letting Alex think he's winning. Lol. Brad knows Anzo doesn't want to uproot, and God knows will go where. Anzo is just getting longer vacation. Probably like Zedarius, and then he leaves a laughing emoji. It'll all come together, guys. Get ready for a wild ride. Detroit versus everyone. Heck yeah, Super Trustfall. I also agree with this. I don't think Alex Anzalone is necessarily wanting to go anywhere, especially in the situation he's in right now in a winning team. Why would you just want to uproot and leave, especially when you've kind of been one of those corner pieces on defense in the linebacker position, which is very important. And he's only gotten better over the years, so just uprooting now wouldn't be necessarily a smart decision by him. We also know that Dan Campbell and Alex Anzalone have that good bond and connection since both of them played in New Orleans, and Dan Campbell has that coaching experience in New Orleans. I don't think he's necessarily going anywhere. And I think Brad, like I've said, we trust Brad to handle the team, and we'll be good there. I love Detroit versus everyone, man. Of course, Detroit versus everybody. And hopefully, I saw your little comment about Za'Darius. It'd be really cool to get him back too, but we're just gonna have to wait and see. We talked about that cap space earlier, and it's gonna just be a big decision of who we get and who we don't. Uh, Either way, I trust the coaches, like you say, and we'll have a great season. So, with that being said, guys, we are out of time today. Thank you so much for listening to Lions Latest. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. And if you made it to this point in the video, what do you think we should do about Tate Ratledge contract? Do we think we hold off, or do you think we get him signed soon so we can begin these camps that start this week? With that being said, though, I hope you enjoyed the video. I will see you in the next one, and you have a great rest of your day.